obviously the three players, there's maybe been some doubts around in the week leading up to this squad. Larin, Hutchinson, and Boyan. Could you just maybe give us an update, on their status and their inclusion on the roster?
Yeah, they're included on the roster because we still think there's an opportunity, Ollie, that they can take part in some of this window. Their recovery, their return to play plan is progressing, and there is a chance that the three of them may see some time during this 10-day window, and I think that's the beauty. We've still got a little bit more time right up until that last game against Panama. So, they're on our roster. They're certainly not healthy at the moment, and they're still in their own return to play plans. But we've been working with them individually with their clubs to look at options and ways that we can make sure we put our strongest foot forward in this window.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Oliver. We'll go to Neil Davidson, followed by Derek Mendist.
Thank you, Richard. Hello, John. I hope you and the family are well.
Hey, Neil. All good.
Good. I have two questions, if I may. One, were there any players who were ruled out by injury? And two, in looking at this roster, it seems you've been able to pick players on a rich vein of form. You look at Shaffelburg, Miller, Buchanan, players like that. Do you see a lot of these players on a good run of form in advance of these games?
Yeah, I'll start with Scott Kennedy is, the player that's, officially ruled out. He had a tough injury and is going to take a lot more recovery time, takes him beyond this window. So he's the only one, and obviously, with Milan and that return from COVID is always a little bit tricky. It's different for different individuals. And then obviously with Cavallini, he's another that is currently injured and is on a return to play. So, it's a complex window, this one. It's, we got lucky in September being able to come in to the camp with everyone healthy and fresh, and we were able to carry only 23 players because we had no yellow cards, there was no travel restrictions. But this window is complicated. We've got COVID cases. We've got travel restrictions for junior highlight into Mexico. We've got injuries, and we're carrying 5 yellow cards. And the referee in the first game happens to be the referee who dished out 11 in the first game of the Gold Cup. So it's going to be a wild window. But what it offers, Neil, as you've sort of opened to there, is these young players who are in good form. Players like Liam Miller, who's been part of our program, and we've been waiting for him to get this consistent run of form at a big club like Basel. And then obviously Jacob Shaffelburg, who's been a shining light for TFC. There's other players, Zachary Broguillard, who's continued with consistency this season. And obviously young Charles Andrea Brim would be another that, is starting to get continuity at the professional level and in really good form. So I'm excited. I think it's a window that, we're going to suffer a little bit, and that's normal. It was going to happen, but it's a real opportunity for us to show the quality of our depth and to strengthen this group, add more people to, the depth of this Canadian squad.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go with Derek at Post Media, please, followed by Anders Marshall at CBC.
John, how you doing? Good to see you again.
Hey, Derek.
Growing up here in Edmonton, I know you're focused on this window, but the announcement that you're going to come play games here in November has got the city buzzing already. It's been a while since the national team was playing here. can you maybe start off with a quick thought on that? And I don't know if you've ever been to Edmonton in November. Mid-November, it gets a little chilly, but there is a lot of excitement in this city about coming here for a World Cup qualifier.
Yeah, and it's exactly that, Derek. I mean, three things. One, it's a World Cup 2026 city. We know, having been in the Commonwealth when Sinclair scored a penalty, it can sell out, and it was a sea of red in that game. So that's the first one. It's got a history of supporting Canadian teams. The second is, you know, controlling our destiny. We could have made things a lot easier and, you know, played in maybe different environments, but we wanted to make it difficult for the opponent. We wanted to make them travel across time zones, play in, you know, a Canadian winter, and, you know, on a surface that, you know, they won't be happy with. We get a chance to play 2 matches at home in an environment we can control and get our players acclimatized to and ready to create a fortress in out west. So I'm excited for that aspect. That stuff gets me excited. And then the third thing's bringing Fonzie home. You know, that kid's done so much for this country. You know, whether it's his speech that, you know, lit up the world in helping land 2026, to what he's achieved on a global stage, and, you know, to allow him to come home and be appreciated by the people who've watched him from afar. You know, I think it's just a great little storyline, and yeah, we're excited for this one. This is going to be 2 big home matches, and we're going to need everything about home to help us through.
Just a quick one on this window here. The Gold Cup game you guys played against Mexico was basically a game. You guys were in a hostile environment. There's a lot of Mexican fans in the stands. Did that game, do you think, will that help you a little bit when you go to Azteca and kind of face a similar environment? I know it'll be magnified, but it's kind of a similar environment.
It is similar. There was 75,000 Mexicans in that, and there was beer flying past my head every 10 minutes. Like, yeah, you know what you're coming into. But these players, it's one of the greatest, you know, football coliseums in the world. To go and play a game of football in that stadium, you know, I want to make sure these players get a chance to embrace that mentality. And we've experienced the Mexican crowd before, and there's a little bit of something that was left on the field still in that game that, you know, I know this group of players want answered. So they're going to go into this with some belief and some confidence that they can compete with historically the best team in CONCACAF in their hometown. And, you know, I think there's nothing but an excitement for this game.
Thanks, John. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go with Anders Marshall from CBC, followed by Laura Armstrong from Toronto Star.
Thanks, Richard. Hi, John. We just mentioned going to Azteca. You know, it's a tough start on 2 back-to-back away matches. How are you preparing for this environment?
Well, I think the game in the Gold Cup was a good starting point. Again, you got the sense of the Mexican crowd, but you also got the sense that we were able to impose ourselves for periods, which I think it rocked the Mexicans. And, you know, that is going to be in the mindset, I'm sure, of their players, that, you know, for periods, Canada were holding their own and at times controlling elements of the game. So I think mentally that it's about building on from that performance from us and not taking a backward step from that standpoint. And then, you know, in this environment, we've had the higher security teams where, you know, we're making sure that we've came into Mexico early just to experience the elements of altitude and obviously the elements of heat in the training environment. But, you know, for us, we've just tried to take every precaution so that our training sessions are carefully secure, and we can go into that game, you know, on the front foot and hopefully surprise the Mexicans a little bit.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Anders. We'll go with Laura Armstrong next, followed by Alexander Gangwe-Rizik.
Hey, John, thanks very much for taking the time. Hope you're well. I wonder, as you welcome new names to the group, what lessons you learned from the first window that you can sort of share with them that they might make the transition to sort of this environment easier as you approach, 3 very important games?
Yeah, I think there's growth areas, and it's the critical part is to just keep moving forward as a team. I'm not focusing on every single game as a separate entity. It's about the growth of the team, and in elements as leadership off the field, there's areas we can grow there and bring a high level of intensity and focus in some of the turnarounds to the games. And in the games themselves, I think what we want to continue to build on, Laura, is that ability to respond. And I think that was an important part, whether it was the response after a timid, first half against Honduras, the response to the setback against the USA, and the response to that first 20 minutes against El Salvador. I mean, those elements are parts of the performance that this group of men know that this is a strong team, it's a resilient team. And when you have that ability to respond, you're able to push your boundaries a bit further. So able to take a bit more risk in games to know that, we have the ability to come back from tough situations. We're able to respond well when it gets tough. And I think that's a real important part for the team being in this second window, to accept that and to build on it and move forward from.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Next, Alexander, followed by John Molinaro, please.
Hello, John. Hope you're well. Just 2 for me here. First question, obviously a player that a lot of people have been, taking attention of over in Russia, Richie Ennen. Just want to know if he's been someone that your staff has been tracking, and if you've had any conversations with him. And then the other one, just what are your thoughts on that second Jamaica game? Jamaica obviously had a bit of a slow start to the window, but they've got a lot of sleeping giants on their team, so to speak. But yeah, thanks, John.
Yeah, Richie is someone we're tracking for sure. I think when you're playing in a league like Russia, it's that's a tough league for any young professional to hone a career. So we've been tracking him. He's played 5 matches. Those matches, he's showing that he's got talent. You can see that, and he's growing as a professional. He's got a bit more of a weight to get into the MNT. I mean, we're going to see how he progresses over this period of time, but he's certainly on the radar, and that's good news for Richie. He knows that every game, national team staff are scrutinizing his performances, and hopefully that spurs him on. I mean, at this stage, we've invited some young players into our environment that have been with the program now for 2-3 years. Some of them have been to multiple camps, Olympic U23s, and their careers are really telling a story. So, for Richie, I think he's 5 games into his pro career, and long may that last. And I'm looking forward to see where he's at next window and whether there's any new questions around his selection. And the second part of your question, sorry, what was that again?
Just asking about the Jamaica game. Obviously a bit of a slow start from them to this qualifiers, but they've got a lot of talent, as you're probably well aware.
Sorry, I got in at about 3 a.m. This morning, so my mind's not as sharp today. But yeah, Jamaica, I mean, I don't think you can use the first window as a measuring stick for Jamaica. If you look at the antecedents behind their performance, they had 3 different squads. One squad that was pulled in from more North American players because of the restrictions that we're going to have to deal with now going into Mexico. and then a squad that was sort of waiting in Jamaica, who got 30 minutes together by all accounts of English-based players. And yeah, you could see in scouting the game, the chemistry and cohesion wasn't there. And then the last game, that group of English players couldn't travel again to another red list country. So another squad turns up to Panama. So I think this first window, you've got to give them a little bit of grace, given they were the hardest hit of any team by some of the pandemic realities. So I think coming into this one, I've seen the roster. That's for me the third strongest, fourth strongest squad in CONCACAF when you look at all positions and where these players are playing, Premier League players, but also probably the most informed striker in the Premier League in Mikel Antonio. So you look at that and you see them landing in the US with maybe 4 days of preparation. This is going to be a completely different entity compared to what you've seen in the first window. And I think everyone's just interested to see, how cohesive they are in that first game. And then, can they turn around in a 2-day window? And how does that look? But we know their squad's deep because they took Mexico to a 2-1 loss with what many people described as their B or C squad. So this is going to be 2 tough matches, Mexico and Jamaica away, and then an even tougher one if in terms of Panama at home.
Thank you very much. We're going to go around for we've got 2 more questions along with the pool question. So John Molinaro, followed by Joshua Cloak, and then we'll have the pool question. John?
Thanks, Richard. Hi, John. Hope you're doing well, and thanks for taking the time to speak to us. With regards to Jacob Shaffelburg, he's earned a recall after nearly close to 2 years. I'm just wondering how did he earn the recall, and what do you expect to see from him in these qualifying games? I mean, what kind of role do you expect him to play?
Yeah, I mean, I worked with Jacob in January. He had the whole camp with us in what we were supposed to play the USA. So, he did spend some good time with us, and he was due to be in that U23 Olympic squad, but obviously with the COVID outbreak at TFC, he wasn't able to be part of that. So he's been a big part of what we've done. He was in the January camp in Iceland. That was his first camp, and you could see he was very raw. But over the last 6 months, I think you can see he's starting to mature as a player. Better decisions, better timing of his movement. And, I think a lot of people talked about his end product in previous seasons, that the end product wasn't strong enough to progress into a mainstay in his club. And now we're seeing that change. And that's just the growth of a young man. What I've always loved about Jacob, and having worked with him, is his tenacity, his growth mindset. I mean, this is a kid that's come out of sort of Halifax, and sort of proven people wrong all his life that he can make it, and he's proven people wrong again, and he's ended up now in a national team jersey. So for him, I think this camp will be re-immersing himself. He'll be understanding, how this team has shifted over the last 4 or 5 months since he hasn't been part of our program, and there's been some tactical shifts. So it's getting him up to speed and then see how he competes. There's a lot of players now competing, and on that left side, he's competing with people like Alphonso Davies, Tejan Buchanan, Richie Laria, if he plays there, Sam Adekugbe. There's definitely a lot of competition for Jacob, but I think his mentality always is when he comes in, everything's at 100%. So really excited to work with him again, John.
Great. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joshua Cloak, please.
Hey, John, you mentioned that this is kind of a challenging and difficult window for you with kind of the circumstances around the players. I'm curious, are you open to making any kind of tactical changes that you wouldn't have otherwise? Like, can we expect maybe more changes and more rotation in this window?
Well, I think the windows we've been in have been very, very flexible. I think that's what we've sort of prided ourselves on, that ability to shift in game, oscillate between different structures, and then, from one game to the next, show a different look to the opponent. So I think we have to continue with that because it's been a strength. But at the same time, Joshua, I think the reality of what the squad is for Mexico today and what that lineup could be very different as we get to Friday, as a lot of new information starts to unfold around 5 players specifically, and then whatever happens over the weekend. So if it's happening to us, I keep saying this to my staff and players, it's happening to other teams as well. You've just got to embrace it. And I think the Gold Cup was a great example of a group of men that, when the odds seemed against them from a squad perspective, it just brought us all closer together. And then you do have to commit to tactics and commit to that tactical cohesion more to mask some of maybe the quality that might have dissipated. So I'm really looking forward to this window, because I think the 27 guys on this roster and the ones that are doubtful, I think there's some big opportunities for players to stake a claim for future involvement in this journey. So anyone coming in, it's an absolute opportunity to get yourself in the thinking for that World Cup squad in the future. So all in all, I would say there's still a lot that's going to change from game to game. 5 yellow cards is problematic for Canada coming out of this first game, and I've got to look ahead to home matches against Panama, Costa Rica, and Mexico, which are must-win games. So, yeah, a lot to think about, but embracing it and knowing that other teams are having to think about similar things.
Thank you very much, John. And we'll wrap up with the last question. So, John, how excited are you to continue on this next step of the journey, and just as importantly, to get back to playing on home soil in front of a sea of red with the expanded capacity at BMO Field?
Yeah, I mean, it's the best way to finish this window. I mean, the boys are going to go to war for 2 games away from home, and we're ready. We're excited about that as well. And then, to come home and feel that control that you have when you're in your home country. We felt that coming from Nashville, just to land in Canada and, feel that you're at home. And then you get to the stadium and, get that sense in that first 20 minutes that the crowd are that 12th man, they're willing you on. So, yeah, we're excited for this, Richard. I mean, every game is, like I say, a cup final to us, but even more special when we get to sing that anthem at home and get to celebrate at the end of a game with a group of fans like we did last time. There's no better feeling than that.